justice and peace, so that our actions will be guided by the desire to secure justice and equality for every member of our community. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any comments, corrections, or changes to the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda today.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by David Pyle to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent. The agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting and approval of disbursements. Are there comments, changes, or questions about the consent agenda?
Move we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by LaDonna Allen, second by Holly Levine to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with 2 absent. The consent agenda is also approved. Next is public forum. Anyone wishing to speak at public forum? Well, let me read this and you can come on up. All persons wishing to speak to the mayor and board of aldermen during the public comment portion of the meeting should come forward one at a time and stand at the podium, then state your name and address and the subject matter you wish to comment upon. All comments should be directed to the mayor in a civil manner. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless the mayor or board of aldermen grants additional time. It is the mayor's responsibility to make sure that these rules are followed and to maintain order and decorum. If you have a question, the mayor and board of aldermen may, of course, provide an immediate response. However, the mayor and board of aldermen may also provide no response or response at a later time as they deem appropriate. Now, are there any public comments? Please. Yeah, come on up to the podium. That way we get you on tape.
My name's Maria Dam, 506 Oak Drive, Country Club Estates. My concerns are the storm drain at the Oak Drive. My house is kind of lower than the street, and I'm catching all the water over the last 17 years. My fence line is washed out. The storm drain that comes down behind my house between Oak Drive and Leisure Lane, it comes from, I think, Hickory, and it also comes from Leisure Lane, so it tees. I have pictures too, if you guys want to see pictures.
Sure.
So there's a manhole in that storm drain. I videotaped the storm drain, which I was just able to get some pictures for you guys today. I videotaped how the water ran off after the incident the rain event that we had last Thursday. And the water, it floods going down my yard from 2 sides. It gets down the storm drain, down at the bottom of my yard, and it runs along with the storm drain that's flooding from Leisure Lane down the ditch. And there's a culvert that runs under Lone Elm. Nothing is going into the culvert. There's a cat living in there, and it's dry. All the water is staying in my next door neighbor's, which is the corner house on Oak Drive. It's a marsh down there, and when I walked down there, I sank about 8 inches into just the dampness. None of the water is going into the storm drain. A few years back, when we had torrential downpours, the water backed up 3 feet on my pool twice. And it was like tornado event, and it's not getting to where it needs to go. And it's also flooding over the top of that manhole that's kind of at the T of coming from Leisure Lane to behind my house on Oak Drive. Did you want to see pictures?
Do you have an in-ground pool or
Above,
okay.
yes. Twice, the water's backed up 3 feet to my pool.
You know anything about this, Jay?
I've been down there after I made no other complaints, but I will get into.
We can have Jay look at it, Public Works Superintendent.
I called and I had asked the first time that I've seen in 17 years, they came and brush hogged that ditch in probably in the last 6 to 8 months, maybe, at least in the last year. But that was the first time in 17 years that anybody's cleaned out that storm drain.
Well, yeah, you'll take a look at it and see why it doesn't drain.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because it needs to drain. I mean, yeah, once you go ahead and get the pictures up here, you pass them through. Yeah.
I made notes. Are those copies that we can
You can have those.
put it in case we want to put them in the file or something?
Yeah,
so
well, they
Jay
put them
can
in
have
file for sure.
So that.
Is that all you
that's
need?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
that's all I want.
Yeah. If he doesn't come and see you, you come and see us next meeting.
Yeah.
Jay, you're with the Public Works Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Public forum? Anyone else like to speak at public forum? Last call. Very well, we'll move on to a request from Schumer Mitchell for water service for the estates at Foxbriar.
Good evening. My name is Art Alibo. I'm with Sherwood Homes, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear about these requests that we have here about you. And I'd like to give you some context on why we're asking this to the city. So you should have received a layout, kind of like so you can see what we're going to be talking about. If we have a platform, we think that it will be that one, right? Yeah, that right there, perfect. Yeah. So, just wanted to give you some context on this. We own this property for a few years now, and we have been looking at developing right here. There's actually a ravine going right through the middle of this property, going north to south, and we already have a conversation with you guys, I believe, a couple of months ago, like 6-7 months ago. On this property, so you have to be somehow familiar with it. The reason why we are requesting to have water services on the east side of this property is because rural water district doesn't have the capacity to serve all these lots. So we met with them. They told us that they can only serve 11 lots on the west side of this property. They pretty much all the lots are backing up to Joplin Street. And then the only option that we have right now is to go ahead and ask you guys for water to be able to do these estate lots. There's a few, I believe, reasons why we believe this would be beneficial for the city to do this. The first one is we will be building that connection going east-west, which is the one that is hatched, kind of like dark gray over there. That we know there's a big need of another exit from Briarbrook to Joplin Street. So that will be actually built, and also it won't be maintained by the city, it will be maintained by the county as well. The other reason why we believe this will be beneficial for the city is because the water line, the water service, those homeowners will actually pay Steve, you're gonna have to help me with this, 2.3 times more, 2.5 times more than a normal resident in the city. So the city will be actually getting more benefit from the water bill for those guys. And also the maintenance of that water line will be maintained by a homeowners association, the HOA, that we are going to put together for this, so the city won't have to be paying for any maintenance on this water line. The main question that I believe you guys are having right now is why we just don't annex to the city on this. We've been looking at this for almost a year and a half right now. We had multiple conversations with your city engineer, planning department, and the numbers, they don't work for us. We know the cost of everything, and we have to make sure that we can sell those lots, and with the cost that we're getting after we have to put all the infrastructure that we have to put per city code, it just doesn't make this feasible. So that's why we wanted to come in front of you guys with this request and see what your thoughts are. We believe there's some benefit for the city as well, so we don't believe this is just only serving us, it will be also serving the city. So, any question you may have, I'm here.
What are the increased costs to annex into the city?
The biggest cost is on stormwater. So the cost of actually doing the detention pond in our ravine is super high. So the cost of these lots are going to be close to $80,000 to $95,000 per lot.
I'm just gonna say, my opinion is, if you guys wanna build in Carl Junction, you wanna have these houses here, they need to be annexed in. If you wanna be in Carl Junction, these people are gonna be in Carl Junction. I don't like building houses that are right next to Carl Junction and they don't have to follow our ordinances, our codes. You know, they call our police officers, but they're not paying for any of those services. So that's my opinion. Go ahead.
I had a couple of questions. First of all, talking about that access road, like building out to Joplin or whatever. That was supposed to be in the plans all along. And the last time you guys came, we were told, well, you probably can't do that because it's going to be cost prohibitive. And we were told, well, you didn't put it in writing. So kind of had a problem with that because that was the plan all along. And then we were told, well, nothing was in writing, so we don't have to do that. But my concerns are if you have stormwater issues in there anyhow, and then you're going to be building, and so you may be going to make more stormwater issues. I guess, like say, anytime we have a different opinion on something, we're supposed to voice it. So my problem is, if you do this, and we make it easier for you to develop these 18 homes or whatever, and they don't come into the city, there are no codes. So you guys are not going to have to follow setbacks. Your residents are not going to have to follow any of our codes. So you're going to have city residents whose property backs up to the county residents who are not, they don't answer to anyone for codes. So if Ward 3 residents feel comfortable with that, but I mean, you could just be looking out your back door and see 2 foot, 3 foot high grass, animals at large, anything, because they do not fall under our city codes. So I kind of have a problem with that. And I understand if we make 2.5 times maybe the water rate, but that's going to be like an additional $500 or $600 a month, probably. A difference in what if you annexed in. And I think we're setting ourselves up for a lot of issues, especially in that ward down the road, because like I said, if even school buses or anything, I mean, depending on how it's in there and the setbacks and the streets and all of that. And is there currently an HOA in place?
We will put one together for this, and if I may answer a few of your concerns. So you're talking about grass and, grass being high. Like if we don't get this water in there, that will still be just a field. So I don't see how doing this or not doing this is actually going to help on that one. You also mentioned some stormwater concerns. We don't have any stormwater concerns. What I mentioned earlier was that if we have to go through city code, we have to do stormwater, like we have to do a detention pond, and that's when it gets really expensive. So there's not really stormwater concerns per se here. And I understand your concerns as well. I think right now, really, and we're just being honest with you guys, like, this is a conversation we want to have with you. So if we don't get this, we're just not going to move forward with this project. These are going to be 1 acre lots. So there's definitely not going to be any setbacks issues at all in here because it's going to be a 1 acre. I can answer pretty much what you said. That's what I can answer to you.
So other than the 2.5% for the out-of-town user, how does this benefit the city of Carl Junction and our residents?
I believe it's on the street. And I apologize, it wasn't the last meeting that this was said, what you said earlier. I don't have any knowledge on that, but I can look into it. But I believe this circulation is really needed on Briar Brook, and we just wanted to present it to you guys to get your opinion on it.
I agree, it's really needed. We thought we had it all along, so that's why I'm hesitant to approve anything without something in writing. Because that's exactly what we were told last time. That if you couldn't develop this, you were going to scrap the whole thing, even though that was what we were told was going to happen to begin with.
So you're saying that if we get you something in writing that we're going to build this street, you'll be.
I don't even know. Honestly, I'm against the whole thing because of the same reasons we said. If you want,
I'm on record right now, and I'm saying that we will build that street. So if that's your concern, I can send you an email right now and do that as well. But
I still have concerns though, because you won't have police coverage. You're not in
Will
the
the
city.
residents know this? So are they gonna be fully knowledgeable of this if they move into this home and they think, okay, I'm moving to Carl Junction? Oh, but
well,
really,
they won't be moving to Carl Johnson. They'll be on the county.
They will
So-
think they are though. Or they will get there and decide, hey, we want to be part of the city.
if their home is butted up against the Briarbrook homes, I mean, that's Carl Junction. They're gonna move here to go to our schools. That's Carl Junction.
I understand what you're saying, but I mean, on their home title, it won't be called Junction. So,
Right.
I have a bigger, in my opinion anyway, a bigger stormwater issue here. Those detention ponds serve multiple purposes. One, of course, is to be a collector when we have a large rain event. But the bigger one is to give us a place for water to go back to our water tables. Our water tables are constantly being depleted because of our development, and we're sending all of that water to Grand Lake. So that'd be my bigger issue,
Yeah.
that detention pond is
if-
needed if you develop there, whether you're in the city or not.
Yeah, if you see the map that we provided, there's already a ravine over there. There's already a pretty big flood zone. So we won't be really changing anything in here. I mean, if you think about water surface, everything will stay the same.
Well, then my question would be, I guess then, I'm assuming that Kirk or somebody's looked at this. If that ravine is sufficient to absorb all that water, then why would we need a detention pond as well?
I have the same question.
So that wouldn't be Kurt that would have to look at that. That's going to be the county, and the county has stormwater regulations just like what we do.
But if they're considering coming into the city, Kurt would look at it.
Yeah, if it comes into the city, then absolutely, they're going to have to do the water quality report. What do they call that?
I thought the whole issue was wastewater.
Well, wastewater, they're gonna put in septic, right? Which means I don't want people later to come in and say, well, now we want to annex in, because I do understand in our statute, there is basically an emergency exception or whatever when it's just completely impractical to do it. But in this is a different case. This is people not wanting to spend money to make the changes to come into the city, to hook up to the sewer. So if they go on septic and then later we have those 18 houses that decide they want to annex in, they're on septic.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, about 2 years ago, it was brought up, somebody wanted to annex in only if they could get city water and sewer. We told them they could, they got it. They annexed in. At that time, we said that we would not allow anybody to hook up to public utilities unless they annexed into the city. If I'm not mistaken, LaDonna, you was on the council at that time, and I know you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I mean, it's been it's been our stance for.
Yes. And everybody's going on, well, we're gonna pay a higher price. Well, the higher price is for people that like Airport Drive. They pay a higher price because they get their water from us.
They get,
No, they get the
they
water.
get, they get
Well,
our sewer.
Yeah, sewer, I mean,
They get the water.
I'm sorry. But anyway, that's where I stand on it. That if they'll annex in, fine and dandy. That's all I have, Mr.
So have you guys asked Elgar Morton to look at? the-
Yeah, we've looked, and Steve's right there, and actually Micah
I think
with here, our engineer. We've had multiple conversations with them. I'll kind of let Micah talk a little bit about it.
Sure.
My name is Michael Satt. I work with, working with Sherwood Mitchell for a while on this property. And so to answer some of your stormwater related questions, I'm here for the technical engineering side of it all. So as far as the hurdles specifically with stormwater management on this property. It comes down to the amount of volume of water and the rate that it's flowing through this property. So you mentioned that it's a ravine at the bottom. This is the 100-year floodplain regulated by FEMA, and there's some unique hurdles already with putting a detention pond in the floodplain. Usually what we try to do is get it to the floodplain as quick as possible. That way, like the stuff adjacent to the floodplain gets through and downstream before the rest of the floodwaters hit. What that does is basically you have peak flow rates in your runoff, and so if we can get this small peak done first, it doesn't sync up with huge peaks, and thus reduces like downstream impacts. However, according to the city code, in order to waive that detention requirement, and because it's next to the floodplain, we prefer to do that, but we can't waive it without just paying the fee for detention, which is it works out to be like 13,000 or so an acre, not an acre impervious, which some cities use, but that's not what you're doing there. And so that by itself adds significant cost to development. And then to build the pond, there's a lot of additional hurdles with box culverts and pipeline widening, because with where it's located, we don't want a whole bunch of infiltration into that dam, which is a concern given the amount of water flowing through. So there's just so many different unique hurdles with where it's located. And then otherwise, to answer your question about the ground table recharge, the way that we design this pond is to get it all the water out in 24 to 48 hours. So it's not like a retention pond that's intentionally infiltrating the soils and recharging the groundwater table in this case. But that's just the ins and outs of the stormwater, but if there's other technical related questions, I can.
Well, I'm sure that in a peak water event, right, it's not going to retain all the water, but every detention pond that I've seen that we have in the city thus far, at least, there is a level that is potentially maintained that will soak back into the ground over time so that you don't lose all that water. What you're proposing is to send that water as quickly as possible to Grand Lake.
And not necessarily. And so you're definitely correct that there's a lot of infiltration. Not a huge amount that we can truly count on, because by the time that all of that's happened, you hit a saturation rate in that soil that really slows it down. And that's usually what we're up against with the detention ponds, is we hit that rate of saturation and it really slows down and it's flowing through the system. And so in order to prevent all these ponds from being massively upsized, you have to adjust. We don't keep all the water anyways. It would be just financially unfeasible for.
Well, I understand we don't keep it all, but we need to keep all that we can. Right? The fact is, every drop of water we consume in this city, as far as I recall, comes from a well, which depends on that water table. And if we deplete that water table, we have no water.
Just to add to that, right now, I understand that on that pretty flat, pretty normal piece of ground, this is a pretty hilly side that everything's already going there. So I don't think we'll be really changing what's really happening on the actual side that much, if that makes sense. Because I don't know if you've been there or no, it's pretty steep. It's pretty steep green as well. And just in general, we just wanted to come to you guys and present this to you, get your opinions on it. And the reality is we can't move forward with this. We just wanted to try to develop this, and we thought that there will be some benefits to the city as well. And I don't know what's the next step of this. Did you guys vote on it, or we just get an answer of like, I don't really know how this looks like.
I had one more question real quick. What were your intentions when you purchased this property? Did you intend to bring it into the city?
We really have owned this for 4 or 5 years. I didn't personally buy this. So
Right.
I don't know if the intention was to actually bring it into the city. I really can't answer that.
Is this where the gravel road is on Joplin, or that goes off Joplin Street up the hill? One time I saw a sign that said Schuber Mitchell on that road.
No, that's Mr. Hughes' house.
This is closer down to Fur Road.
Yeah,
Oh, this one is.
yeah. What's it come off
This is
of?
out 4 you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Meadow Lake or something like that. Ties into Meadow Lake. So. What do you guys want to do?
It does need an action on it, either some type of a motion.
I hate to give up that road to Joplin Street, but I can't vote for it. I can't. Like you say, it's city utilities, it's city benefits. I don't even know if something was said about trash service or, I mean, we negotiate that contract on behalf of residents. So I think if you want the benefits of the city, you need to come into the city. And I hate it that we don't get that road because that was talked about when we even did the other plats, that was going to be extended out to take some of that traffic off of Fur and off of Briarbrook and everything else. But we talked about it in good faith, and now we're finding out it's
It
not
was a
happening.
different road then.
It was, they had the service road, but wasn't that in the early discussions?
Yeah, but it was different location. It wasn't
Right,
this one.
but so they could put it on a different location and take it out to Joplin?
Problem they had was having to build a bridge over that ravine.
That's what I'm saying, and I know you personally didn't go by it, but you guys are developers, that this is, you do all over. I would think that when you saw that property, like whoever was in the acquisitions would have picked up on some of this stuff rather than now come and say, well, all of these plans have changed and you're not gonna get this road and we can't develop it. And I mean, I think somebody maybe would have caught some of that when they were looking to buy it and plat it and develop it, but I guess obviously.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys' time, so thank you.
I think you need to make a motion to approve it, then vote it down if you don't want to vote it down. That's what I think. You gotta have action on it.
I mean, somebody.
What'd
make a
you
motion
say?
I've searched the code for a specific procedure. I haven't found it.
Okay,
So I think a motion either approve or to disapprove would be appropriate.
I move to disapprove.
Second.
motion by Don Allen, second by Holly Levine to disapprove the proposed out-of-city water service. All those in favor of the disapproval, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative with no one that is not approved. And 2 absent. That's approved. Next is an ordinance approving the contract with Mid Central Contractors LLC for technology upgrades, the 3rd reading.
Move we put this ordinance on third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Don Allen, second by Holly Levine to put this ordinance on the 3rd reading by title only. Will the clerk please read the title?
An ordinance approving a service agreement between the city of Charlotte Junction, Missouri and Mid Central Contractors LLC to be a preferred service provider for the implementation of new projects, upgrades, and maintenance to meet the needs of the city of Charlotte Junction, Missouri, including but not limited to the police department, community center, city parks, and public works, for the sum set forth in the agreement and authorizing the mayor to execute said service agreement for and on behalf of the city of Charlotte Junction, Missouri.
Discussion. Steve,
Everything.
got all the changes we needed?
Mr. Talley
I live in Seal.
didn't pop off in the meeting this time that he, yeah, so no, I have no added to.
So everyone's, your concerns?
The concerns are gone.
The concerns are
Clause
gone.
in the contract that I
Okay,
raised the question over is gone.
good.
What was the price on this? Do you have any idea?
Well, yeah, it's an hourly rate. It's right here. For, you know, SME engineering.
List out the hourly rate, and then for the reports only, it's $1,000 per report.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and they can't do anything unless we approve.
I move we put this ordinance on final passage.
Second.
Motion by Holly Levine, second by David Pilot, put this ordinance on final passage. It's a hand vote to go to electronic voting. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative, please vote electronically. Pardon me? What?
Yeah,
We
we
had
did
the
third.
third reading?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we did.
You just want another reading.
6 affirmative with 2 absent, the ordinance passes and the contract is approved. And that's ordinance number
2411.
2411. Thank you. Next is reports, the city administrator's report. Any comments, corrections, or gripes to the city administrator?
They need to change our names on the screen.
Yep.
Can you kind of discuss our, emergency management, storm siren plan?
Gave you guys all late, there is a couple of things. The existing storm siren activation policy that was enacted several years ago. And there's also the map of storm siren coverage and a report that we got, that LaDonna got from the Fire Protection District on the timeline from Thursday of the landspout tornado.
It was actually an amp.
Yeah, we had a little radio problem, right?
So we had some radio problems with it, and if you're listening at 6 o'clock, they were working on them again. They worked on them all afternoon, and the text I got from the chief was they got it all worked out. It was a programming problem with the handhelds and the base unit inside the PD. So,
Now, once they got the NWS and they set it off last Thursday, they sounded in our area. They didn't sound last night, so we did not have problems last week. It just
yeah.
was,
I don't think they
videos-
sounded in Bradford though.
no,
Well, they did out at my place.
they didn't last night for sure.
A couple of the videos that I received
Yeah.
from Dogwood Trails and Rocky, forgot the name of the street. You could actually hear the storm
Here's the
sirens
sirens.
occasionally and they go in that circle, so you could hear that storm siren.
Yeah, we did hear them in ours, the Bradford one, I guess last Thursday, but last night.
You should have been out there Thursday night when it went through, because you could hear the storm sirens, the sound of it, and see the debris. I know I was standing on my front porch watching it.
It's a good safe place.
I was daring it to come at me.
You can get a permit to build a shelter.
I was within 2 blocks of it.
Yeah, that's what I do. Stay out on the deck.
Yeah.
Do you know how much we paid for
Why do we
storm
have
sirens
storm
here
sirens?
last thing?
I do not,
And then so kind of like walk me through the protocol of who sets off the siren.
so the protocol now has changed because of the radio systems, and the previous one was from years ago, and that it was locked into basically one person had to tell them who to set it off. So now instead of that, we have 5 people that can do it, because people are going to be gone, vacation, whatever, not in the office, but and those 5 people with that protocol laid out from our policy, if it meets these criteria, that's when they're going to set it off. So if it is on a path to Carl Junction and it has, the 70-mile-an-hour winds, and it has been National Weather Service notification has went out, that's when they will be sound off. And they're not going to have a single person's approval to set them off.
And they can be set off remotely from wherever
Yes.
that person is.
And I also, when I did talk to the chief, he confirmed that he communicates well with Chief McCall of the
Yeah.
department, working back. And so because there was some questions some people had on some media and stuff about, do they have to wait for National Weather Service to do a tornado warning to set them off? Well, hopefully we'll already have that warning in place and it won't be like Thursday.
Yeah.
But Joe did confirm that if his train spotters, if he's out there in spots, he notifies and police understand, yes, set them off, even if NWS hasn't
And
said anything like they did last
another
week.
thing, and it's really hard to get that education out there, is that these are not designed to where you can hear it in your house.
Right.
They are an outside warning system. Example is last night, my wife actually heard it. I was in a different part of the house and did not hear it. So it's very, very, and I did look up some louder, more decibel ones. You know what? I think we ought to have the loudest ones possible. Well, they quit building those in 1954, and it was a Chrysler V8 engine attached to a siren system. So, and it was like 140 decibels or something like that. So,
Well, he's pretty loud.
yeah.
Yeah, when they go off, they're good loud.
And do we have kind of like an emergency, like plan or, some kind of, like if a big tornado were to come through town?
We
where
do.
We kind of all know our roles and what we should be doing.
Yes, we do. We have an EOP that it's been signed off on by the state emergency management and also the feds by FEMA. It's been a couple of years since it's been amended or looked at, so it needs to be done again. We do that in conjunction with the fire district and also the Jasper County Emergency Management Directors.
So do we have some sort of like maybe a folder that, whoever would want that to get it, or kind of like a chain of command? So like if something were to come through, let's all check in with Steve and then we're going to divide up tasks, or just kind of like a process so we know what we're going to do if something were to happen.
It does lay out that process, and I had a conversation with the fire chief this morning, and he wants to go through it again and then get it amended if we need to, or updated, that type of thing, and then distribute copies. Everybody on the council gets one, the fire chief, police department keeps one over in with the clerks, I keep one, and Elena probably has one in. Well, yeah, it's on top of the file cabinet.
There is a training program they offer too.
There is.
I've got 2 certifications in my office. I went
There
through
is,
2
and
of them.
elected officials are supposed to do that.
It's been 15 years ago that I went through that.
There is a FEMA training program for elected officials.
Forgot about that. I think I did the same time you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 years ago, Rick, I know, and you were in here trying to keep everything going, but for 12 straight days, we're out at the kind of resource center, recovery center, whatever we set up there. And afterwards, because Rick was like on chainsaw crews and helping coordinate and stuff, afterwards we had talked about having an after action meeting, a debriefing, because maybe not to read the whole manual, but we picked up on some simple things and we never got that done. So I know Rick had some ideas. I had some ideas just from being out there and things that would come up that you learn, about halfway through what was easier. One of the things though we had talked about later, and I had mentioned, was to have a designated resource center like in every ward. So if it got hit, like last time we had it at the club and people could walk, since sometimes their vehicles are hemmed in and everything else. And I think that's something we need to look at, like have it arranged in advance with, say, a church or, the school or here or wherever. So if anything hits in that ward, they already know we have permission to utilize it and people know to go there. I think
Unless
that.
it's the resource center.
Yeah, but if so, then you have your neighboring, ward. You could have alternates like our ward, there's really no place in our side of Ward 4. You could set up at the park, I guess, and put canopies up like we did.
Ward 4 would be difficult because it's a split ward.
It is, but if it hit like Rogers area like it did the other day, like Gum Road Church or maybe would.
Well, that's another thing. The churches out there used to, when storms were coming through, they would let you go in. They're not doing that anymore. I don't know why, but they just, no, we're not doing it no more.
I just think if we could have some stuff like in advance, like hopefully we'll never need to do it, but we have the contact and we have the people that know that we may have to set up there, like whether it's Christian church or here out on the parking lot or here in the media center or wherever, so. Because I know last time we had planned on doing it here, then we were like, if you do it at Briarbrook, people could just walk up there. And then we had to try when cell phones were out and everything else to get a hold of the people.
Joe's the emergency coordinator, right?
No,
Chief is,
What?
the
Your
chief.
chief is?
yeah, our
Okay.
chief is.
Our chief is? Okay. Well, he needs to set that up. If you're gonna do that, talk to him.
I just think it would be kind of good to know it.
Talk to him and do something like that.
After,
He's the one that's in charge of it.
after our 2019 event, where the county had gotten hit also besides the city, that was a conversation with Chief Perkins, was he's got such a large area that he has to take care of.
That's right. I
And
remember that
then,
now.
you know, trying to take care of the city at the same time just wasn't feasible.
Yeah.
But we did. We did. We ended up bringing them all in because the concern was, well, you're using city work. No, there were no city resources. They were donated.
Yeah, that was all
So we
donated
ended up bringing
resources.
everybody in under the one roof so they could do it. And it worked.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I will
Yeah.
do an outline on what, like I said, Rick and I afterwards had wanted to do a debrief.
And that's part of that report that was laid to you is Chief Perkins' after action report on it.
Yeah.
Lessons learned. You know, we learn out of every one of these.
Hopefully
And
we
on
don't have-
that note, I got a phone call today from city manager in Carthage, and I'm going over there tomorrow afternoon to help them get FEMA paperwork lined out.
Yeah. 110 trees went down on Carthage Golf Course.
Did you say Central Park?
It's closed. Anything else for the city administrator?
I have a question. Do we have any idea how the new car wash and airport drive is gonna affect the sewer rate?
We don't. I've actually had that conversation with our engineer and with their engineer. And it's, and we will be, pretty quick here, we'll be getting the new rate structure for our sewer from our engineers. And they have taken into account that. The bigger issue that I have with it is chemicals that they use in that car wash system, and whether some of those chemicals are on ones that we have to test for, the nutrients, phosphorus, you know, the nitrogen, any of that stuff, if it's in there, the fats, oils, and greases, any of that type of thing, we don't know of. We don't know if any of the chemicals that they use to make those foam is because they use phosphorus in them. If we're under initial testing and stuff that DNR is putting on us for those types of things. So they are going to have to take some responsibility and do some, it's called pre-treatment testing before it gets to our plant. So they need to know what's in their storm or in their sewer system before it ever gets to us. And we're building that into a new contract for sewer services.
So am I right that,
You get done.
the airport drive, they have like a limit of how much water
Yes.
they can put through the sewer?
They do. They have two limits. They have a daily average limit, and then they have a peak limit. If they exceed that peak limit, they get charged $1 per 1,000 gallons, just like our citizens do for the I&I fee.
And do we have
So
any
they
idea
get
of,
charged
like
for
where they're at
I&I.
on the limit? Is it like, is the limit way above what they actually use, or do they get close?
No, they're not. They're not. They stay within the limits pretty good. And we've been very tight with the flows that we've allowed them to have.
Do we ever revisit that amount,
Yes,
like every year or 5 years?
every year it is part of the conversation when the engineers do the rate study.
In a conversation with Airport Drive, and it was on a bunch of their different stuff, on their new business. And it was brought up to me that their engineer, when the developer, the owner, whatever, came to the village and said what he wanted to do and wanted to get the approval and everything for the plan, that Clayton said, we need to check this out to see what this is going to do as far as the sewer, like in the level and where we're at. And I don't know that you're aware of this because he said, the developer, the builder, what supposedly said, well, I talked to Steve over at Carl Junction and he said it's not a problem. So I'm not sure how that happened, but I think it should have been engineer talking to engineer and the
Yeah.
whole phosphorus stuff. Maybe that's something they should have checked ahead of time because
They did-
ultimately
I did
they get
ask
charged
them.
for it, but we're gonna be the ones paying to expand the plant or if we have to later or,
And
Hey,
they
in
have
our
a capital, and part of that rate structure is a capital.
Yeah.
That they pay to, but, that's news to me unless he had actually talked to Kurt. I know him and Kurt had that
well,
conversation.
he said.
And and
Because-
I did specifically ask Sue and Clayton about what kind of chemicals they were using and if they had any of those listed items in.
So what happens if they do have pollutants in the water?
I will have to ask the DNR that. And that would be through the engineers. If they have an excessive amount of any of that on there, they need to get in, they either need to use chemicals that don't have that in it, or they're gonna have to get into some type of pretreatment.
Well, there's something for you to do this week.
Anything else for the city administrator? If not, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Any comments about the treasurer's report? No comments. We'll go to the department reports. I got building inspector's report here. Roof's still holding on to number one. 45
With a bullet after.
with a bullet. Let's see. Okay, we got the PD's report here. Any comments for the PD?
Can I ask a question for Katie? Okay, is our e-ticketing up and running and working? Is everything good on that?
We're having training tomorrow for that, and then hopefully that's if issues occur.
And then I have a question, I don't know if you know or you know. The police officers that take their cars home, are they allowed to take those outside of city limits? So like if the officer lives in what city, they drive that to what city?
They do, we have a 7.5 mile radius that they have to be in. If they are outside of that 7.5 miles, they do not get to take a car home.
So we kind of know where they live to
Yes.
gauge that?
Yes.
Okay.
We know where every one of them live, and
Do
we
have
are
any-
doing some revisions to the policy now.
I always think that's weird, like near my home, there's a Webb City police officer and his car's always parked outside. And it just seems weird to me that like city resource would be outside of the city like that.
Over the past 5 to 7.5 years, probably, there's been a lot more talk about that type of thing. Joplin at one time had a police officer that lived in Lamar and was taking a car from Joplin to Lamar every day, back and forth. It seems like there was one in Stockton too. So
3 or 4 years ago, we had a Newton County Sheriff's guy living in Ward 3.
yeah,
this car there.
There's one now, we have a new county sheriff that lives here.
Main
that,
Street.
You know,
Yeah.
and so we were very careful with that tight radius to keep it as close as possible to, prevent that. And we've got, we do have an officer over in Carthage. He doesn't take a car home. So.
Anything else for PD? Very well, then we'll go to Public Works. Any comments for Jay?
I saw a big tree down at Country Club Park.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Okay.
I haven't been out there yet today.
Any update on slide repair over there?
On the what?
The slide repair?
Still waiting on the parts to come in.
And then I also, there's a big, I don't know what direction that is, from the concession stand. There's like a big hole
West.
in the ground that's got a fencing post sticking out of the middle of it.
That country club,
Yeah.
I'll have to go look at it.
Okay.
Is it to the right of the concession stand?
Yeah, it's to the west.
To the left?
To the west.
Yeah, that could be where that mine shaft used to be.
So I got that to look forward to in my ward. We're gonna have a huge sinkhole, we're gonna call it.
Oh, DNR had to dig it up, and it was all full of boulders when I got down to where the cribbing was gone. And they just said, it'll be fine, covered up. And then we put the drain in there, and we put a culvert, cut holes in the side of it, so whenever it rains, the water will get into the culvert and go down to the road.
I'm going to walk very gingerly at Country Club Park.
You have any strange objects in your backyard?
I had a compliment from
I'll just follow
the
the
women
mine
for the
shaft.
cultivators club the other day on Jay. I already told him, but they appreciated all the work this guy did to get their tables out, set up for their plant sale.
Oh, did the tables get picked up?
Not yet,
Okay.
been too ready to get the backhoe in there.
Okay, gotcha.
I had a couple people from Dogwood Trails told me they couldn't believe how fast you get out there to pick up the stuff out there too. They really appreciate it on that last Thursday night. Really good job on that. Thank you.
People on the loop probably like help too.
Anything else for Jay? If not, we'll go to committee reports. And the first one will be budget and finance.
We don't really have anything except Steve, we're gonna get together and look at ARPA, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna put some numbers together and then we'll bring them back to the committee and the council on how we're looking at ARPA and some pending projects maybe.
All righty. Anything else for budget? Next is code and nuisance. Well, Rick and Bob are gone, so Carol, what do you have to say about
Our nuisances are.
code and nuisance?
Not much.
Roger?
Nothing,
Okay. We'll move on to human resources. Roger?
nothing at this time, sir.
Thank you. Public facilities. David?
Yeah, Mayor, the Public Facilities Committee met at 6 o'clock this evening. My apologies to Mr. Hayes that word didn't get to him on that meeting. I think the communication gap had to do with the transition here and should be closed moving forward. Really, primarily, we wanted to get together and organize ourselves with me moving into the chair of the committee and also talk about some of the pending projects that we have in the works. As Ms. Allen mentioned, she and Steve are going to meet to talk about ARPA funds and how some of those might be reallocated so that we can see some of those through to completion. And I'd say the most noteworthy item was the committee did vote to recommend that we ask the full board to approve the playground design presented by Miracle. And if I understand correctly, that'll be at the next meeting. That's all.
Good. Do you have more questions for David? If not, we'll move on to economic development. Holly?
Yes, I've got a couple things. First, Carol, LaDonna, and myself, we went to a meeting that put on by Harry Truman Council last week. It was kind of neat to hear what other communities are kind of going through, some issues that we all have, and hopefully that leads to some funding coming through, some grants that they were talking about that they could organize. And then on economic development front, retail strategies, they have completed our marketing guide. So I'm gonna get with them towards the end of this week. We're trying to coordinate schedules to get that. I'll get that out to everybody as soon as I get it. And they've matched us with 32 retail prospects that we're gonna start getting with. I've actually got a meeting with one of them tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that, and hopefully have some businesses coming to town.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else for Holly? If not, we'll go to unfinished business. Carol?
No,
Walter?
No, sir.
David?
Now that we got the Mid-Central agreement in place, I would advocate for trying to make one of the first priorities, rework of the technology for these meetings. I know that was brought up as a concern at the last meeting. I've had some comments from an individual this week, also saying that there were some limitations on their ability to understand how we were voting or who was voting in what way on items. And I would encourage us to look at improving how we present this meeting to the public online. That's all.
Levon?
None that I can think of right now. I'm probably missing something.
I got a few things. First on my list here is I asked you about Liberty and if they could explain the meters for the electricity with the solar panels with us.
So she has not gotten back with me. I did contact her. She said she didn't get my original email, so I sent her a copy of my original email to show her that I did send it. And then I resent the pictures to her. She saw the email. She has not responded yet. So as soon as I get something, I'll let you know.
Okay. And then with that same thing, Steve, I asked you to contact both Algar Martin and our solar panel supplier about the possibility of putting meters on before the Empire meter and before the solar panel meter that gets in there, so we can see exactly how much energy is going into the building. It even correlates with the final meter that says what we're using. Do you have anything from them yet?
Yes, I talked to Chris Durkee. He's the electrical engineer out at Algar Martin. He is researching different styles of meters that we can use so that it is not like it's not like an electric meter, or it's not like the meters that Liberty uses. He doesn't want to get into that because they're the only ones that can use those, and then they get their fingers involved in it. So he's trying to stay away from that. So he's researching the different type of meters that we can use.
Okay. Because I really want to know if we're getting ripped off or not with the solar electricity. All right. Next thing I got, memorial flags. I had some Legionnaires Saturday talk to me about wanting to get the flags up or get them lighted or something like that. And I know we used to have solar lighting on them. It didn't work. And what did we have? A $31,000 quote to get electricity to them?
$31,000 quote. There's another thing that I had asked Liberty if they would want to participate in that project in any way. She did get back to me on that one. She had several questions about what that would look like, and I gave them three options of either they provide the materials, they provide the labor, or that they write us a check for basically a community service project. And I have not heard back from that.
Okay. They're really hoping we can get something done by Memorial Day, which I think is a little bit.
Can we get some sort of temporary light out there so that we can set the flags up through Memorial Day weekend?
We did have some discussion about this at the Public Facilities Committee meeting as well, and that's part of, I think, the exercise in the meeting tomorrow is to look at funding so we can get it done without depending on somebody else. But also in the meantime, to work out a procedure for it, at least the American flag to be flown at the memorial on those holidays where it would.
Yeah, but I think the problem's at night.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
somebody went out there taking it down, there's no light on it.
Right, but in the meantime, to make an effort to fly during the day
Yeah.
on those major holidays.
We just have to have somebody go out and take care of it. Okay. Well, that's that. And my last concern is Jay put up some cement posts for those speed limit signs out there on Briarbrook Drive where the soccer people are. Steve and I had a little bit of a discussion about that, and since where they're located is where the soccer people are, the kids are out there all the time too, but those are also two accesses to golf carts going across that road there. So do we want to do that, make that 20 miles an hour there permanently, or just do it during soccer weekends? I just kind of want your opinions on that. Either way, we're going to have to get rid of that 30-mile-per-hour sign that's just north of the first radar sign. It says 20 on it. We can just move it if we have to. I mean, I would move it down just farther north on Briarburg Drive, even with where the other radar sign is. It's got that whatever it is, neighborhood watch thing on it and the speed limit sign on it. Also, if we're going to do that, then we need to have one at the other end, right across from where the south one is. It says 30 miles per hour there. And I'd like to get instead of having that yellow 20-mile-per-hour sign, I'd like to get the regular white 20-mile-per-hour sign on there. And if we decide we only want to do it during soccer days, then we need to change those signs somehow that says when the radar thing's on, it's when it's 20 miles per hour, otherwise it's 30, or something like that. Last Saturday, because I was driving up there, and I came out of Foursome there, and the signs were on, it was blinking, and some contractor's truck was zooming down Briarburg Drive, and radar said he was only doing 45 through that 20. And the soccer kids are all out there. So we may need a little bit of law enforcement to get people to start doing that too.
Well,
Yes.
yesterday they had that state golf tournament out there, the school golf tournament. And when I came through there, I went slow anyway, but there was a lot of
Yep, I
traffic
know,
going
I know.
across it. So I can't see where leaving them there permanently would be a bad thing.
That's my
You
opinion
always
too.
have-
And I've got to slow down to go through it because that's when I go to town, I got to do that, but I'll do that. It's whatever you guys decide.
I'd say you have an opinion in there because your ward is going to be driving it back and forth, so.
I think you can argue with erring on the side of caution
That's what I
and
would-
keeping it at a lower rate in that high traffic area.
People will get used to it and appreciate it later.
Yeah. Then we may need to look at having the radar on a little bit more often than just Saturday mornings when soccer's there. Find a way to do that. Maybe have to go with the solar on or something like that, or get some electricity to it. The north one is covered by trees, so solar's not gonna work very well on it. That's all I had for unfinished business. Roger,
Nothing.
Ollie?
Yes, I should have mentioned this in facilities. Do we have the optic internet at Frankie at this time?
I'll have to check with him. I don't know if they've got a rundown there yet.
So BYA is paying for internet down there to have cameras. So is that something we can provide to them, internet, to have cameras on them when it's available?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's part of the process.
That's part of the
We'll
deal.
put in cameras and stuff.
It's free.
And then we had discussed at public facilities as well, hiring a seasonal mower. So if you can get with Jay on that. Thank you.
That it? Mr. Talley? Lana? Crystal? Steve?
Don't forget those two awards under new business sitting there.
That's new business, right?
Yeah, under new business.
Yeah, well, when I forget it, you can remind me of new business.
It's a preemptive strike.
Public Works?
No, sir.
PD? Very well. Let's see, new business. Holly?
Yes. So this is kind of old / new. So I handed out some logos that I had designed for the city a while back, and I asked about them several times. I never really got any feedback. So I'm wondering if we can set up maybe like a 15-minute work session just to look at those logos and see if we approve them or if we want any changes, if that would be possible.
Sounds good. That it?
Yes.
Roger?
Nothing.
I think I have something for new business. Let's see. First of all, we have something from Spire, our gas company. Keeping our communities safe together, Spire is proud to award the city of Carl Junction with the Silver Shovel Award for his continued commitment to safe digging practices. And we got it last year, and we're 2 years ago, I guess 2022. We're also getting it for 2023. And it will be displayed prominently someplace in the building. And the real important one is the next one. Let's see if I can get that again. I don't have it here. This is a life-saving award to one of our employees, Kenny Wickstrom, in recognition of his swift actions on May the 2nd, 2024, which is quick reaction to respond to a traffic accident caused by a medical emergency, helped in saving the life of an individual in distress. Kenny, would you come forward? Tell me what you did.
How detailed do you want me to be on that?
You were at 7th in Illinois, or where it was?
Yeah, so me and my wife, we were driving home from the community center, and my wife was driving behind me, and as we crossed the intersection of 7th and Illinois, we both noticed a white pickup truck that was heading into the intersection. So as soon as we crossed that intersection, we both pulled over, and we started sprinting towards that vehicle. When I looked into that vehicle, by then this truck idled into the stoplight, and the individual was ODing in his vehicle. So I instructed my wife to call the police and started pounding on this gentleman's door, and wasn't coming to. So by then I had two other individuals that I'm assuming got out of their car somewhere around the area, and we ended up breaking the passenger side window where the driver's side is at, so we can unlock the driver's side door. So I grabbed this individual's feet and instructed the other two to grab an arm, and we carried that individual towards the patch of grass on the other side of that street. And you know, he was unresponsive, but he was still breathing. It was like labored breath, but you know, I put him in the recovery position, and we were monitoring pulses, and you know, had a plan. Once, God forbid, if he did stop breathing, then we put him back on his back, and I would start CPR. And ambulance came, police showed up, and when he did leave by ambulance, they did tell me they didn't have a pulse. So I called JPD the next day because they released the dispatch report and followed up with the report number, and they informed me that he did live. So
Congratulations. Thank you. Well deserved. You saved a man's life. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks. And that's all I have for new business.
I don't think I have any. I'm sure.
Well,
No, sir.
Carol?
No.
Mr. Kelly? Leanne? Crystal? Steve?
Nope.
What? Public Works? PD? Is there any other business before the council?
Make a motion, we adjourn. Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by David Pilot, we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative. We are adjourned. Thank you all for attending today.
I would like to say something.
What?
I'm proud of my son.
You should be.